I'd say about 13 right now.
Okay, yeah, I think I'll just give it maybe like 2 more minutes, see if anybody else shows up. All right, hello everybody. So let's get started. So I'm Odin. For those of you who have not been here before, I'm Odin and I'm the president of the Malware Club. I'm joined here with Evan, who is the vice president of the Malware Club. And then I'm also here with Tarek, who is helping out tonight. So let's get started. So I'll share my screen with you. Oh, and the reason that you're seeing me here virtually is because I'm actually, I'm a remote student. So I'm in Boston. So that's quite a distance away from Madison. So that's why you see me here up on the big screen and not with you in person. So let me share my PowerPoint. All right, so is my screen, Evan, is my screen okay? Can you see it okay? Oh, Evan, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's
It's
okay.
looking good.
Okay, great. So let me just first, before I get into these introductory items, let me just talk about a little bit about what we'll be doing tonight. So this is going to be, we're going to be doing I'm going to be going over some dynamic analysis tools with you. So so dynamic analysis, what that is, we'll get into that a little bit later, but basically I'll be showing you some tools related to dynamic analysis. So dynamic analysis is basically like live analysis of a malicious sample. So just some like housekeeping items. So first of all, we are actively looking for officers. So if you're interested at all at becoming an officer, you can email me here. Hey, there's my email. It's on the screen there. Some different things we're looking for. So helping to like create the presentations, activities, demos, also help with recruitment and outreach, help with the Malware Club website. And then also, you don't necessarily need to know anything about malware to become an officer. I guess if you are interested in creating like demos or presentations, then at least a basic familiarity with malware would be recommended. But if you're like interested in other things, then you don't necessarily need to have a knowledge of malware. We have already gotten one person to say that they're interested in being an officer, but so soon we'll be actively holding an election for different officers. So then the next thing I want to talk about is we do have a sign up form. So if you don't already have a VApp, if you're new, you can sign up to Malware Club. You can sign up at join.malwareclub, and then it will allow you to have a VApp pushed out to you. That way you can follow along with our demos and also the activities that we'll be having. So for today's lesson, just a show of hands, does anybody here not know? If you're like on Zoom, you can like raise your hand, like there's like should be an option for you to like raise your hand. But who here doesn't know like how to access the ialab, how to download, how to access the Malware Club drive, and how to create snapshots? Does anyone here not know how to do that? Evan, do you see it? Do you see anybody raising your hands, Evan?
Yeah, we got one.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I can also, if needed, if anybody else needs, I can walk you through up here on the screen, but it looks like Evan is going to help that person who needs help.
It's not me.
there another member that's unmuted on the chat?
Oh, I think it was Izio, but I muted him, so that got rid of the background noise.
Yeah. So he's gonna walk you through and check, but have you already done your snapshots? Actually, now we're on screen. Oh, okay, so it would be malware, go to the malware website. So go over to the tab there. It's malwr.com.
You can go on. Evan is
Oh.
helping you.
Oh, okay, yeah, that sounds good. All right, so we're going to go to the next item here.
Yeah.
So today, as I mentioned before, we're going to be doing a little crash course on dynamic analysis tools. So here are the different tools we'll be covering: Procmon, Process Hacker, Wireshark, Redshot, auto runs. Rather than explaining them now, I'll explain them as I show them to you, but there's just some different tools that we'll be looking into. First, just let's talk a little bit about what is dynamic analysis. So dynamic analysis is you're investigating malware while it is running. So as opposed to static analysis, which is when you're analyzing malware but not actually running it. So that would just basically be looking, if you're dealing with an executable file, that could involve static analysis, could involve looking at the different sections, looking at the strings, or actual analysis of the binary in a disassembler such as IDA. Whereas with dynamic analysis, you're mostly just observing the changes that the malware makes to the system. So you're so some examples are IP address. Well, first before that. So yeah, you're observing changes made to the system and also observing the network activity that's made. So dynamic analysis can allow you to uncover a lot of important information, which includes, like I said, network traffic. You can also, from that, uncover IP addresses and domains. You can uncover files that are dropped by that malware, which can lead you to further files that you can analyze. And then you can also find persistence mechanisms. So persistence is basically persistence is what you, I'm blinking here. So it's the different, malware, for malware to persist on the system, you need if a user reboots their system, for the malware to stay on the system, that the attacker needs to have some way for it to preserve on the system. So often the attacker will use the registry to do that, or also task scheduler is common. So task scheduler allows you to allows you to schedule different tasks. It's kind of, if you've ever heard of cron jobs on Linux, it's kind of like the Windows version of that. So you can have every certain amount of time you can have a task run. So malware authors use that to make sure that the malware persists after reboot. So that's something you can uncover doing dynamic analysis. So running the malware allows you to gain more insight into, like I described, the functionality, but there are some limitations to dynamic analysis. For example, if you're dealing with malware that can detect if it's in a virtualized environment, then that will limit what you can find. It's also, dynamic analysis can be helpful because if you're doing static analysis, sometimes there'll be functions maybe in the malware, but those functions won't actually run on the system. So by doing dynamic analysis, you can gain insight into what the actual intended functionality of the malware. All right, so now it's demo time. So I just included this because if you've ever done a demo before, you may have had this happen to you. But luckily, so far, our demos have been going very well, so I don't anticipate any issues. So let's Let me share my screen here. All right. Can everybody see my VM?
Yeah, we're all good.
All right, great. Okay, so let me. All right, so the first tool that I'm going to walk you through is called Procmon. So Procmon is basically a system analysis tool. So it will monitor all of the events that occur on Windows. So that can allow you to discover a lot of important functionality, including registry activity, file system activity, process activity. So it's a very helpful tool when analyzing malware dynamically. So I'm going to start it up. So, all right, and then click yes. So when Procmon starts up, it will automatically start analyzing the different events on Windows. But you're going to want to go to File and then uncheck Capture Events. And then you're also going to want to go to Edit and then clear the display, because otherwise it will capture a lot of events that are irrelevant to the malware. Since we haven't started the malware up yet, then that's not going to, those aren't going to be important to us basically. So also what you don't want to keep running Procmon because Procmon uses virtual memory. So if you continue to run Procmon, it could eat up all of your virtual memory and potentially crash your system. So we don't want that to happen. So, but to start analyzing the malware, you will have to start. So you'll have to go to File and then Capture Events. And then you're going to want to start the malware right after you do that. So you should all have this malware right here, formbook.exe.
Does anybody need a minute?
Yeah, what's the password for Laros? That's what we're using, yeah.
Yeah, it should just be the normal password, 1 exclamation point, the capital P. Is it not that?
No, that's correct. So it will be password with a capital P, password 1, and then exclamation point. So I can write that down in case anybody needs that.
Yeah, we might just give them a minute or two to catch up.
Yeah, that sounds good. And let us know if anybody needs help accessing the drive and downloading the sample.
Is everybody into Flare okay?
I think we're good to go.
All right, sounds good. All right, so if you're so after like about a minute of running the malware, you will want to go again to file and then uncheck capture events. If everyone's still, and I'll just give you another minute so like everybody can run Procmon, because you probably should run it for about a minute so you can capture all of the events associated with the malware sample. So we'll just give it another minute. All right, so I'm going to proceed with the demo. So the first thing you want to do is, so you'll have a lot of events. So you're going to want to narrow down these events so they only pertain to the malware sample that you're running. So you're going to want to go to Tools and then Process Tree. So you're then going to want to scroll all the way down to the bottom. And you see here, there are a lot of different processes. And so you're going to want to right click right here on the process. And then you can do add process in children to include filter. And so that will add all of the processes associated with our malware. And that way, only the events pertaining to the malware will actually be here will be displayed. But as you can see, there are still a ton of events associated with the malware. So we're going to want to narrow these down a little bit more. So a good tip to analyze would be to look at all of these categories individually. So we have registry activity, file system activity, network activity, as well as process and thread activity. So you can use these filters here to so you can use these filters here, and then so if you uncheck all of these other filters, then it will only show you the registry activity. But as you can see, we still have a lot of events. So another good way that you can filter events is going to the registry summary.
Should be malware club, so malwrclub.
If anybody needs a little extra time, I can pause here.
Extracted it.
Hey, Odin,
Yes.
sorry to roll you back a little bit, but we've had some issues correctly loading the malware file in and everything. Could you just walk through that step for us again, just right from the beginning? Sorry.
Oh, yeah, that's no problem. So from where do you want me to just
Yeah,
like,
we had some initial trouble getting the download from Google Drive, but it's all worked out now, but kind of missed the first bit.
oh, got it. Yeah, so just like start Procmon over again.
Yeah, I'm like loading the malware file and everything.
Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, so 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 I'm going to just revert the snapshot just so we start from the beginning. So the malware, so I can run the malware again. So.
Yeah, no problem at all. Thank you.
Mhm. Okay, it looks like I might have to quickly just download the malware sample.
Oh, no, that's not good.
All right, so also another thing is right after you extract the malware, you're going to want to create a snapshot because we'll be reverting back multiple times just so we can run all of the dynamic analysis tools. So we just want to create a snapshot just before, like right after we extract the malware. So I'm just doing that now. All right, so
There's a password for the 7-zip, yeah.
yes, it's malware club, so I'll put that up on the screen. Hey, Evan, are people still downloading the malware sample?
You guys raise your hands if you're still having any issues other than resolution issues. No, I think we're good.
All right, sounds good. All right, so I'm just going to launch up Procmon again. So as I was mentioning before, Procmon is a system analysis tool. It monitors all of the events on Windows, so that's just helpful for capturing the changes that malware makes to a system. So as soon as Procmon runs up, you're going to want to first uncheck capture events and then go to edit and then clear display. And that way, all of the irrelevant events not related to the malware sample are deleted. So then you're going to want to, well, again, you're going to have to capture the events before you run the malware sample. So go to File, Capture Events, and then you click on the malware. And we'll give it just a minute to run just so it captures all of the activity related to the malware. So now I'm going to stop capturing events. So the first thing you want to do in Procmon is you want to filter the events to pertain only to the events that are related to the malware sample. So to do that, Procmon has a process tree. So you can go to Tools, Process Tree, and then just going to want to scroll down, and near the bottom, you should see the malware sample right here. So you just right click on the malware sample and you click add process and children to include filter, because that will include all of the processes that were spawned by the malware. So you just click that. And now we have still like almost 100,000 events. So we're going to want to filter that a little bit more. So Procmon offers different filters. So here, the Procmon offers some filters based on registry activity, file system activity, network activity, and then also process and thread activity. These are sometimes good, but sometimes they'll still give you like a lot. If it's a malware sample with a lot of different things going on, like this malware sample, you'll still get a lot of events. So in order to filter that down a little bit more, Procmon also offers like a different summaries based on different activities. So there's a summary based on registry activity. It'll just take a few minutes for that to load. So the Windows registry is it's used for like system settings in Windows, and also the application settings. Sometimes applications will store information in the Windows registry. And so the Windows registry is commonly used in malware for persistence mechanisms. So I described persistence a little bit further, but basically when malware reboots, it needs like a way, the malware author needs a way to ensure that the malware starts up when the user reboots their computer. So they often use the registry to do that. So we can commonly find registry activity. That's commonly found in the registry. Also, sometimes files can actually be run from the registry. So just give that a minute to load. Since there are a lot of events, it sometimes can take a while. All right, so one thing I like to do when looking at registry activity is filtering based on registry files that were written, and that will sometimes show you some interesting registry activity. Sometimes there is the case though that you'll get a lot of registry activity that isn't malicious. A lot of it is just part of the normal way that an executable file will start up. So, this is actually a registry key that's used for persistence. So the current version run key in the registry will basically it will like when the system reboots, it will, any program in the current version run registry key will run upon startup. So that's just a way that the malware author is able to achieve persistence. Let's look at see if there's anything else. So you can see here TCP IP. So that indicates to us that there is network activity, that the file that this malware is making network activity. So that makes sense because the malware needs some way to communicate with a command and control server, and then that way it will capture information about the system and then send it over to the command and control server. So see if there's anything else here. Looks like it's getting information about the language. So basically that means that it's just collecting information about the system so it can send it back to the command and control server. So it's basically like fingerprinting the system. So it's gathering information about the system. Let's see what else. It's getting the computer name. So also part of like the information collection phase. Some more network activity shown here. Some more network activity. So that's pretty much what's going on in the registry. So let's look into, next we have file system activity that usually will show like the different files that are spawned by the malware. So if you go to tools and then file summary, you should then it will give you a listing of all of the file activity of the malware. Oh, okay. So what happened here is we're not seeing any events. That's because I didn't select the file system filter. So without that, it won't show the events related to the file system. So go to tools and then file summary. And now it should show all of the file system activity. So one thing that I like to do is based on writes, so like based on the bytes written to disk. So to filter based on the bytes written to disk, you can click right here, and then it will show you all of the files that were that had bytes written to disk. All right, so that's here is just some more executable files that were dropped by the malware. So a lot of files were dropped by the malware. One that I want to look into, we don't have time to look into all of this, but I do want to look at this with you. So this is a log file that was generated by the malware. So it's in the user's app data folder. So go there. So you can click, you can do this to access the app data. You can also just navigate it. It would be users, malware, app data, and it will bring us to the roaming folder, but we want to be in the local folder. And so it wrote it to the Microsoft directory for whatever reason. And then it would be CLR right here. And then usage logs. Okay, so actually this isn't the one that I wanted to look at. The one that I wanted to look at was in the roaming folder. It was actually, so let's go back. So it would be app data, roaming, and then log. And then this is the log file this is a file that was generated by the malware. So we can open that in our browser. We can open that in we can open that in any browser that we want to, but I'm just opening it in Chrome. So it's, hey, Sol, I'm not sure how to pronounce your name, but you're not muted, so. Thank you. All right, so okay, so this is so the malware author wasn't trying to hide the fact that this is a keylogger, because it says keylogger right up here. So so we have different, so it shows all of the different windows that we have opened. So it basically records this activity. So the keylogger records all of the windows that we have open, and then so it records process. So yeah, so it has like all the windows, and then it even records the clicking of our, like, so it even records clicks, and then it would also record keystrokes, but I haven't made any keystrokes. So there's that. Yeah, so a lot of different files generated by the malware, as you can see here. All right, so the next thing we're going to want to look at is network activity. So as you can see here, there's a lot of network activity that was generated by the malware. You can also just go to tools and then network summary. And then you see a couple of different IP addresses that the malware connected to, which is likely the location of the command and control server. So that's the network activity. Next thing, the last thing that I want to show is process and thread activity. So this will show you, so all of the processes that were spawned by the malware. So to view that, I like to use the process tree. And so you go to, so here you see all of the processes that were spawned, and it gives you like a nice view. It has like, gives you like the child processes, and so you can see everything. So right here, we're going to take a look at this. So we can just right click here, go to event. Okay, yeah. Oh, so I know why that happened. So because of the filter. So we have to select the filter so it shows us the associated activity. So you have to select this filter right here, and then that will show you all the process activity. And then you have to right click on here. So you go to event, and then you right click on properties. And then if you go to process, it will show you the command that was run as part of the malware. So here you can see that it's creating so it's adding something to task scheduler. So task scheduler, as I talked about before, is a persistence mechanism that's used by malware. So this is just a way that Windows, you could run like certain tasks in a certain time interval. So this, in case the user reboots their system, then it will, this will run the malware again. So here you can see something interesting. So let's look at this event here. So you just right click on this event, and then you go to properties, and then you go to process. And so you can see here that it's adding something to it's adding a rule to the firewall rule. So But we're not going to get into like deobfuscating this, but basically it's adding a firewall rule that is obfuscated. So and next we're going to let's look at this event here. So this event, go to properties, and then see it's running the system info command. So it's getting information about the system. So then it's like basically fingerprinting the system and collecting information related to the system. So and then go to auto. So let's look at this one right here. Actually, let's look at this one. So event, and then click properties and process. And as you see here, it's running the hostname command. So it's getting the host name. And that's, yeah, and that's basically all that I wanted to show you for this malware as far as Procmon. Did anybody have any questions related to that?
Just a quick comment, Odin.
Sure, yeah.
So, guys, like in the future, if you analyze a malware or something, if it's like most sophisticated malwares nowadays, they don't use these commands. So it's not that they have to use it. So they use Win APIs to avoid detection. So like the last command that Odin showed was like hostname. This is a CMD command, like you can run from the CMD. But the Windows itself has a lot of Win APIs, like functions that you can use to do all these things. So if you do that, it's kind of difficult to get detected. Same with the files. They don't write files on disk because, as you can see, that gets detected a lot. So they try to avoid all that by running the malware completely in memory. So maybe next time I can show a little bit of that. So.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah. So yeah, more advanced malware will make use of like more complicated techniques and so that's why for you have to do like static analysis in that case is one approach you could use, so you can like actually analyze the malicious binary. But yeah, in this case, this was a malware that's a little older, so it's making use of more basic techniques that are more easily detectable. So I'm just going to, so the next tool I want to show to you is Process Hacker. I'm just going to revert the snapshot. If you have a snapshot created, you'll want to do this too. So you'll just want to revert to the snapshot, and then the snapshot that I created will revert the malware back to, it will revert the state of the machine, of the memory back to like before the actual malware sample was run. So that way we can run it again and observe it. So I'll just do that right now. So just allow me 1 second, and then. All right, so yes, the process hacker, what that is it's a basically another system monitoring tool, but this one will monitor all of the processes that are run on the target system, and then you can look at some of it offers some features, such as it allows you to look at the, well, first of all, it allows you to look at processes like real time, and so it will show you all of the processes real time, and it will also show you like the child processes, and then it will like the new processes will appear in green, so you can, as the malware is running, you can view all of the processes in real time that are spawned. It also allows you to view handles. So what handles are is, so they're like different references that will be created. So by looking at handles, you can look at the file system, you can look at registry activity, well, we'll show you like all files associated with the system, and it will show you registry activity and different things along that line. It will also allow you, Process Hacker also has a feature that allows you to extract memory. So if the malware makes use of shellcode, then you can use Process Hacker to extract the shellcode. You can also view the strings in memory. So I'll be showing you a couple of things related to Process Hacker. So, once you get Process Hacker open, you're going to want to launch the malware again. So you're going to want to click here, and then it will show you all of the processes that are spawned. Let's give it a minute here. So here's the malware. So it's showing you all of the processes that are spawned in real time. So then to view more information about the process, you can right click on it and click properties. So let's look at the handles associated with the process. So not a lot to see here, unfortunately. Oh, okay, so some new handles have been created. Oh yeah, so here you see, so in the handles for file system activity, you see that a log, so it's a log was created, and then passwords.txt. So I would assume here that the malware, so since it's a keylogger, it's capturing the user's passwords that they enter, and then it's capturing this in a log file, and then it submits this back to a command and control server. So it captures all of the user's passwords and then submits them to the it submits them back to the attacker. So that's what's going on there. And we see this log file created before, which gives a its view of all of the applications that the victim has running, and it's has all of their keystrokes and everything. This is just some registry activity that we saw before with network activity that's being created. So that's about it for that. So to extract memory, there is a memory tab. So you would go here and then you can right click on it and then click save. So you'd have to find an area of memory that's usually shellcode would be readable, writable, and executable. I don't believe there's this malware, I don't believe uses any shellcode, so you won't see that in this malware. But if there were shellcode, the protection value would be RWX, so read, write, execute, and then so that would usually indicate that there might be some shellcode. So then you can right click and then here you would save. So yeah, and then yeah, that's for that. And then also you can view strings in memory. So it would be here on the memory tab, and then all the way near the top right, you would click on strings, and then you can specify a minimum length here. Usually 10 will be good to capture strings, and then click OK. So here it will show you all strings dynamically. So, sometimes Malware Sample will make use of encryption techniques that will make it difficult to it will encrypt all of the the different sections of code. So it will if you were to analyze malware statically, it would not show all of these strings. But once you run malware dynamically, it will allow you to see different strings in memory. So if you scroll down enough, you should be like an IP address somewhere in this in the malware. There are a lot, it is a malware sample that generates a lot of strings. So, oh yes, here are the some IP addresses associated with the malware. So sometimes that will be hard coded into hard coded into the executable. So you can see here that there's although that's not that's a local address, so that would be there, but yeah, these are like strings that can be generated. These are like the list of strings. So let's move on to the next tool. So I'm going to just revert the snapshot again. So I can start the malware again from the beginning. So I just click revert. So I'll just do that quickly. All right, so the next malware sample the next tool that I want to run is Wireshark. So Wireshark is a packet analysis tool. So it will monitor all of the packets that are sent to and from your network interface. So that can be helpful for analyzing any of the network activity that is generated by malware. So I'm going to start that up, and I'll just start up the malware. And so what we're interested in this case is web traffic. So you can apply a filter in Wireshark to filter only for web related traffic. And then to view information related to web traffic, you can click follow, and then HTTP stream will allow you to view the information that has been generated will allow you to view like the network connection that was made. So here it makes a request to icanhasip.com. So it's getting like the victim's IP address. So that's what it's doing here. I didn't notice really any other network activity when I was analyzing this malware. So other malware will make use of more network activity, but that's all the network activity I found in this case. So let me move on to the next tool that I'll show. Just give me 1 second just to revert back to the snapshot. All right, so the next tool I want to show you is called Redshot. Let's open this up here. So Redshot, what that will do is it will compare different snapshots of the Windows registry. So you can take one snapshot before you run the malware, and then you run the malware, and then you would take another snapshot of the system. And that way you can compare the different snapshots that were generated by the malware to see the different changes that were made to the system in the Windows registry. So we're going to take one snapshot before we run the malware. Sometimes it'll just take a minute. Well, I guess while we're waiting, does anybody have any questions about anything that I've covered? Okay, so it created our first snapshot of the Windows registry, and then we're going to want to run the malware. And then maybe give it a minute and then take another snapshot of the registry. All right, I'm going to take the second snapshot of the registry. All right, while we're waiting on that, I'll describe the next tool, which I don't know if I'll get time to show you because it is now 7 o'clock. So the other tool that I wanted to show you is auto runs, and that's basically, it shows you all of the persistence mechanisms that are on Windows. Well, it shows you like everything that's run upon startup. So it's a Windows sysinternal tool that shows you everything upon startup. So that just allows you to look at different persistence mechanisms. So for Redshot, let's click compare. So then it will generate that to a file. You can see that there were 12 keys added, so let's take a look. Output. So you go to compare and then click output. And then it shows you all the keys that were deleted. Okay. So here it shows you all the values modified. and then also shows you all the values added. So this is just another way you can observe changes made to the registry. So I think I'm gonna call it there for the meeting because it is already 8 o'clock. There was an activity I wanted you to do. I can briefly explain that to you. Just if you have time, like free time, and you want to do if you want to learn more about how to do dynamic analysis, there's like an activity that you can do. So there is a file called I forget what it's called, but there'd be another file in the directory that you downloaded the other file from. And then you can, if you want, practice using Procmon or any of the other tools that I discussed. And that way, yeah, and the video, I'll have the video up so you can share so you can review what I discussed. So yeah, I'm gonna call it for the meeting. Anything that you want to say, Evan or Tarek?
Thanks, guys, for coming. Maybe see you like in 2 weeks, I guess.
Yep. And did anybody have any questions?
Any questions? Nope.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for attending, and we'll see you at the meeting in 2 weeks. Thank you.